Hello. Can you check your sound?
Hello?
Yeah. Sound is okay?
Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
Kau berhenti jangan ke banyak, cacing jangan ya.
So shall we wait for 2 minutes, 2 to 3
Okay.
minutes? People are
Okay, sure.
joining.
Sure, sure.
So shall we start slowly so that people will be joining? On Facebook also people are watching.
Okay, sure. We can start it.
Slowly we'll start so that you will get more time.
Okay.
So good evening to everyone. On behalf of Satya Shodhak, I welcome you all in within the Zoom meeting on Facebook who are watching. Uh, this is the lecture 6. Uh, this is the lecture 6, which is part of the lecture series that we have started on Dalit musical traditions. The aim of the lecture series is to understand, engage with the Dalit musical traditions across India. In each state, there are many musical traditions which are created performed by the Dalits. They are not only performers of the music, they are creators of the musical instruments, which are contributed enormously to this music world. And however, often within the musical world and the writings on the music, often they are reduced, the musical traditions are reduced to the folk traditions. The minute when we reduce or when we say whatever Dalits are performing, creating, they are folklore. So it means they are not only reducing this music, they are saying that it is local, it is not modern, and it is not national. So therefore, what become classical, what is national, what is modern is a dominant Brahmanical musical traditions, whether it is Hindustani, Karnataka, and whichever. And those music traditions which are performed by the very few dominant minorities become a national, and therefore institutions, universities, all are engaged this dominant notion in their writings, in their understanding, which has been circulated for the generation to generation. So this lecture series is critically understand that binary thinking, and we have done 6 lectures so far, and today we have with us uh, Ajith Kumar AS, is from Kerala, so who has been working a lot, who is a basically music director, composer, and organizer, and he has been extensively working on range of issues. He is also a writer. He has been writing both in Malayalam and English. He has been published a book in Malayalam that is on caste, body, and music, and which is well circulated and got many appreciation across groups. And he has been writing on various issues, Dalits, caste, and music, modernity, and various issues. And is also active member. And if you search in Google, in YouTube, you will find many interviews as well as lectures in Malayalam. He also been composing music for the feature films, documentaries, and some of them yet to be released. And he also published articles which are available on net, and also he is a columnist in one of the Malayalam daily. So in a way, he also produced a documentary called 3D Stereo Cast, and there are many works. These are very few that I come to know. While he is presenting, he will definitely refer his work so that people will come to know his work. And I would say that he is one of the very important thinker, intellectual, who have been responding to the contemporary issues, particularly the domain of music for a long time, limited to the very few scholars and writers and performers, particularly from the dominant section. But his contribution and thinking is really help us to understand Dalit music in a much more historical and in a much more advanced way. I think his lecture will definitely productively make us to think on various issues which are connected with the no, Dalit music as a modern. So I'm happy to invite uh, A.S. Ajith Kumar, and now I request Ajith Kumar to begin his lecture. And the format of the lecture is he will speak for 50 to 1 hour, 50 to 60 minutes. Then we will have a question answer. So you can directly ask questions or you can message. So whichever way you are comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. Chandraiah Gopani for inviting me for this lecture. And good evening to all of you. Today, I'll be talking about Dalit music. And my topic is Beyond Folklore, Dalit Music as Modern. I would try to address some of the issues regarding Dalit music, and I would like to have a discussion on it. More than answers, I will be raising certain questions and the problems related to Dalit music, so we can think about it in a more productive way. So I would begin with a question: where do we locate Dalit music, and what is that we understand by the term Dalit music?
Not just
Okay. So how can we define
my
Dalit
call
music?
will go. Call audio is there, no?
Is Dalit music a particular type of music, or do we call a type of music as Dalit because only Dalits perform that? So it's a question. I'm not going to answer that now. It's a question we have to address. So once this question was thrown against me by a friend, I would like to tell about that incident. One of my friends wrote an article in a Malayalam daily, not Malayalam day, a weekly, and in that he quoted me and he described me as a Dalit musician. So another friend uh, who got frustrated with that usage, he asked me certain questions. When we met on the road, he asked me, "What is Dalit music? Why are you called Dalit musician? Uh, is it because you are a Dalit and you practice music, or is there any particular type of music that can be called Dalit music?" So I didn't try to convince him about what Dalit music is, or why I am being called Dalit musician, because it's more complex thing. So I didn't try to explain that. Uh, so try to raise. It's a very genuine question because we have to think about that. So I will be going to the main issues regarding Dalit music and to the topic. We can see that most of the time Dalit music is described as
Please unmute.
Okay, so
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now okay.
okay. So I will. Today I'll be talking about Dalit music, and I will try to raise certain questions about Dalit music and the dominant discourse that surrounds Dalit music. So we have to ask a question: what is Dalit music? Once one of my friends wrote an article, and he described me as a Dalit musician. And another friend who got frustrated with that uh, asked me, "Is there any particular type of music called Dalit music, or are you called Dalit musician because you are a Dalit and you practice music?" So I didn't try to answer him because I think it's a more complex thing. So I didn't try to convince him about what is Dalit music or Dalit musician. But I think these are some genuine questions we have to address. And I'm not going to answer it now, but in the meanwhile, when we talk about that and discuss about that more in this after this lecture, we can try to address that question. So we can see that most of the time people try to describe Dalit music as folk music. Folk music, Dalit music is always known as, most of the time it is known as folk music. And we can see that it is called folk music, but there are other type of music, and only when we compare it with other sort of music that we try to label this as folk music. And the study of Dalit music, we can see that people approach Dalit music as folk music, and the tool they use is a folklorist approach to understand Dalit music. So we have to. My question is whether this approach, folklorist approach, is capable of understanding the complexities of Dalit music. Can see that this by describing or defining Dalit music as folk music, what happens is folk music, Dalit music is freezed to a time zone, or it is understood as something of the past that doesn't grow, and that is still not modern. So Dalit music is understood as something of some glorious or glorious past, and that is still in its infant stage. It's understood as it has not grown, and it is most of the time we can see that this folk music is seen as something that has to be preserved or protected, something that's dying, and we are trying to protect it or preserve it and keep it in museums. That's the approach we can see. Even the academic field also we can see that folk Dalit music is seen as something that has to be preserved by the state or by the modern people who care about it. It's not it's not at all accepted as a free or it's not at all understood as an independent art or an independent genre of music. It is freezed in a time zone, thing of the past. But we can see that when we talk about folk music or when we talk about Dalit music, some of the images that comes to our mind is like a group of people uh, playing or singing dressed in traditional costumes, and in some localities you can see mainly they are not dressed in modern dress, but they are mostly dressed in traditional dress, or they are playing uh, traditional music. That's the picture that comes to our mind. Uh, that's the stereotype image that comes to our mind when we think about uh, folk music or Dalit music. It's that image has been created by the newspapers or books and films. We can see in most of the films we can see that folk music are used in a particular situation, and uh, most of the time these people or the group of people who sing or dance, they are shown as pre-modern or illiterate people or drunk. So we have a particular type of image and sound regarding this folk music in films. In a lot of Malayalam films, we can see that. Uh, so it's a it is an image that is created by even popular culture and academic works also. There are a lot of books on uh, Dalit music, and they almost most of them come under this folklore studies. And it is always folk music. It doesn't have a independent existence. We can see that in the folklore studies. We can see that they are the people's lives are described, and as part of that description, we can see uh, the something written about their music also. So folk music doesn't have any independent existence in these books or literature uh, on Dalit music. So I think it's very it's not capable of understanding the depth and the complexities of Dalit music. So I would like to tell you about some of the uh, experience I had as a musician. So we can help to understand the thing what I am talking about. A few years ago, there was a program at Nisha Gandhi Auditorium. It's in Trivandrum, and the program was named Octave. So the program was, it was a cultural fest of tribal artists from 8 northeastern states. So each day we had different cultural programs by different states from this northeast. A lot of people were attending that, and one day I was also present there. There was a, that day it was the program was performed by artists from Manipur and Nagaland. And this day there was a rock performance by a Manipur band, and I saw that the people were actually surprised. So people from Manipur are singing in English, and they are singing rock songs. So they were surprised, and they were expecting something else because it was from it was tribal artists. They were expecting something else. So the tribal, the stereotype image of the tribal music or dance, it's very different. So they didn't expect someone from Manipur singing rock songs and the tribals from Manipur performing rock. They didn't expect that. So it gives a certain uh, explanation of what I was talking about. And in another incident, I was once I met my friend. He was a movie maker. He was a director, and he said he was going to make a new movie, and he knows that I am a music director, and he is one of my close friend. So he said that he he actually liked to introduce me to the movies, and he wanted to me work for that. But he said this project, the present project he was working on, it didn't need any folk music type of music, folk style music. So he said the next time when he makes a movie, he will try to invite me for working for that, because he said that if a folk style of music is needed, I will definitely call you. So I was thinking, I was a music director, and I like to do music of different styles. It's not just Dalit music, or I would like to do in different genres, rock or hip hop or African music or Spanish. So I don't like to stick on to just one type of music. But because I'm a Dalit, he thought that I can only do this Dalit folk music. So there are many preconceptions about Dalits and Dalit music. So we are uh, made to make a certain type of music. Just we are asked to stick on to just folk music. And the third anecdote I would like to tell you, it happened in my own home. I used to play folk songs in 90s. We had a lot of folk song cassettes released, and I used to play it in my tape recorder, and I played it with a high volume, and my mother used to advise me to not to play in a high volume because there are a lot of people from upper caste and other people around us. The neighbors are not Dalits. So my mother used to say, don't play it at a high volume. So we had such a pressure when living in the city. We are easily, when we play folk songs, we are easily identified as Dalits. Our caste is easily identified, but when a upper caste uh, fellow plays folk music, or he someone sings folk music, he doesn't have the he doesn't have such a pressure. We have the pressure of our identity. So these are the instances that tell in volumes about the caste of music and the caste discourses that is associated with folk music and Dalit music. So uh, Dalit music is always described as folk music. The problem with that is we can see that in such a description, uh, the caste dimension is always invisibilized. So we don't see caste when we say folk music. So, but always folk music is understood as like pure or naive or raw, while the other music styles or music genres like classical music, what we call classical, or other music, film music, and most of other musics, we understand it as modern or developed music, but and even film music, it's mostly considered as impure. We can see that Dalit music is understood as pure, naive, and raw. And the approach, by this approach, we can see that there's a evolutionary theory that is applied in this discourse. It's a sort of linear history in which folk music is understood as something of the initial stages of development of music, and it's still pre-modern and it has to be preserved and protected. So even I have heard that people saying that folk music is a form from which most of other music like classical music, Carnatic, or Hindustani, which all developed from folk music. In that approach, we can see that this folk music is understood as something that is raw, and it's a something of the initial stages of development of, or infant stage of development of music. So we have to I think we have to break such a discourse about folk music, because we can see that in the present public sphere, there's a lot of, especially in Kerala, or at least in Kerala, I have seen that after the 90s, we have seen a lot of folk music troops or Dalit music bands coming forward and performing in the public sphere. Uh, Definitely, it has some associations with the Dalit movements that came to the public sphere during the 90s, into the political sphere in the 90s. It's also associated with that that development of the Dalit politics also. So after 90s, we have seen a lot of music bands playing Dalit music and making new songs on Dalit issues. And even during the Adivasi struggle in front of the Secretariat in 2001, we have seen a lot of people singing and dancing, singing a lot of Dalit songs in the protest venue. So, always in the present world, Dalit music was always, it has made its presence as a modern engagement, but still, most of the people are not ready to accept it as a modern form of music. So it's not just the fault of the mainstream musicians or dominant thinkers. I have found that even most of the folk music bands also expressing the same views that like folk music is pure and naive, and as a art form that has to be preserved and protected. So I think we have to overcome, or we have to go beyond that understanding of folk music or Dalit music, because it doesn't help us to place it in the middle of the modern discourse. So we have to develop counter discourses, so to counter this type of discourse on Dalit music. So I will talk about certain issues regarding the term folklore and the discourses concerning folklore. Uh, First, it was William Thoms who coined the term folklore, uh, and after that, there were some thinkers who thought folklore is not something that has to be kept in uh, or that has to be kept in the museum. So there was Alan Dunes who argued that folklore is something alive and dynamic rather than dead and static. Uh, so now there are a lot of other thoughts about folklore, like applied folklore and other things. But still, I am more concerned about uh, this branding of Dalit music as folk, because uh, in Malayalam, folk, it's English, it's folk music and folk songs. In Malayalam, it's called Nadan. Nadan. It's not an exact translation, but in Malayalam we call Nadan Pattu or Nadan Sangeetam. So the problem is Nadan means local, or it has different meanings. Local or something like indigenous technology. We say Nadan, Nadan. We say we have this alcohol that's produced locally. We call it Nadan Madhyam. So this Nadan means something is not that's not modern. It's not uh, developed. It's indigenous. It's not national or it's not global. It's just something uh, that has developed from the local areas. So in Malayalam we call it Nadan Pat and Nadan Pat Sangham for the folklore bands, folk bands. So this type of discourses, what they do is they freeze Dalit music to a time zone and define it as something of the past that can't be developed. But what I earlier tried to say that it has always been in the modern sphere, raising a lot of questions regarding Dalit culture, and we have seen that. But still, it has not been uh, accepted as modern music. So there are a lot of works on classical music, what we call as classical music. There are a lot of works on that. So even this there are a lot of categories like classical, folk, and these terms have historical dimensions. And classical, certain type of musics were defined as classical through an some, historical discourses. So Carnatic or Hindustani music came to be known as classical through different factors that developed through the history. We have to study the history of this music. Only through that we can understand how these musics were defined as classical. So it's the same way that even Dalit music was uh, described or defined as folk music. It's also a historical development. So I would say the category folk itself is a creation of music modernity. Through that, there's a binary high modern music styles on one side and raw and pre-modern folk music on the other side. So folk music is always it's not understood as a free, independent music genre. So in one of the textbooks that we use in music colleges in Trivandrum, there's a textbook called Dakshinathian Sangeetam. In that, they define there's some description about the features of folk music. So on that they say that folk music is mainly it's the lyrics are more important to folk music than music, because in that it is described as it's just a literal literature. It's a form of literature because they are not ready to uh, accept it as a music form. Because they say that folk music has just 2 or 3 notes or very little. It doesn't have sophistication, but classical music it is more soft. It's more complex, but Dalit music it has just 1 or 2 notes. So the lyrics are more important. Uh, this is what the Dakshinathian Sangeetam, the textbook says. So they are not ready to accept Dalit music as a music form or independent and modern music form. So it's what I earlier said as it's a linear narrative about the evolution of music. Folk music is placed somewhere in the initial stages of development. So we have to develop discourse that counter these type of evolutionary discourses about music. So I have tried to explain it in some of my works. I have released a book on music, and in the it's unheard voices, unheard sounds, music, body, and caste. In that, I have tried to explain some of these issues about music. It's politics of sound and music. And there's another work on the Dalit music scene. That's a documentary on the cast in the music in Kerala. It's 3D stereo cast. You can try to watch that. So it would be more helpful to understand what I was saying in this lecture. You can refer that. So in my documentary in the 3D stereocast, the third part of the that documentary, I have interviewed Prasida Chalakudi, one of the Dalit singers in Kerala, who is very popular. And that she says that why can't a Dalit woman or a Dalit performer who is performing Dalit music, why can't we wear modern clothes and perform Dalit music? Because the people actually want the Dalit musicians to wear traditional dresses because they want it's a stereotypic image. They want uh, the performers to wear dhoti or that sort of traditional dresses. So if this is a modern performance, why can't the performers wear different uh, type of dresses? They are modern dresses. As we can see that Dalits have entered many universities and they are having higher studies and they have now they are working in different firms. They are working in the government jobs. They are having government jobs. So uh, the lives of Dalits have changed. They have reached and there's diverse forms of lives for Dalits, but still we are they demand the dominant culture. They demand us to perform something what they want. We are asked to perform like local people or who are pre-modern So we have to challenge that. So Prasida Chalakudi in that documentary, she tries to challenge that. She says that we will wear new modern clothes, and we will use modern instruments. And so what I was trying to talk, what I was trying to say was, we have to counter such folklorist discourses which freezes us in some certain time zones. We are not uh, allowed to escape that. So it's also about the stereotyping of Dalits and Dalit music. We have a lot of different styles, and we can explore new dimensions in folk music. I think, because I also have tried some making some Dalit music with uh, adding different genres like rap and uh, the rap and hip hop type of music also. So we can explore new type of music from that. It's not just we have to stay to a particular type of music that's understood as folk music. So why can't a Dalit musician make music with different type of music that is in the that we can see in the world? So this time we have to sing that uh, we can see that classical music, what's called classical music, it's accepted all around the world, and it's understood as modern and global. Even dances like Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam, it travels around the world, and it's understood as modern and Indian. Most of the time, we can see the image. You know, there are a lot of videos about Kerala and tourism videos. We can see that these Kathakali and Chanda, these type of instruments are always projected as uh, and Tiruvadira. That's another dance form of the upper caste. Kathakali is also a Nair art form. This is presented as Kerala art forms. When we go to the idea of the Indian, we can see always the upper caste art forms or classical art forms are projected as Indian, like Carnatic or Hindustani or Bharatanatyam or Odis dance sort of. These sort of musics are presented as Indian. But why Dalit music is just considered as local? And we have seen government organizing Festival of India type of programs. But actually these are used just to uh, preserve folk music or Dalit music, and deny it independent existence as independent music genre. So they are what I tried to say earlier. They are actually they are trying to keep these Dalit art forms as museum pieces, and museum pieces, and they are trying to anthropologize Dalit art forms. So it's our duty, or we have to try to overcome these type of discourses is which try to deny the modern existence of Dalit music and Dalit dance forms and other Dalit art forms. So we have to capture the space, and we have to redefine most of the art forms we have. So earlier I tried to say that even the Dalit musicians and Dalit artists also sometimes use the same discourses to enter the public discourse. I think we have to counter this, and we have to create new discourses that counter the discourses that try to folklorize or anthropologize other thought forms. So I think this is what some of the ideas I wanted to share with you. And during the discussions, I would like to say more about it. So I think I can stop now and move on to the discussions.
Okay. Thank you, Ajith Kumar. Yes. So you brought many issues. It's really important intervention. You brought many issues for discussion. The binary thinking, folklore as a local, non-modern, non-aesthetic, non-national, so on. So anything that you attach negatively. So when it comes to classical, it's a national, aesthetic, modern, sophisticated, and so on and so forth. More positive aspects. So you also narrated some of the incidents where how identity become determining factor. What kind of music that you produce. So you narrated three incidents: interaction with the film director, performance of Assami, members in a festival, and also within the family how mother pressurize not to sing in such a mode because the neighbors are the upper caste. So these are the incidents which are very real and everyday experience, which tell us deep rooted structures that determine the taste and music related complex issues. I think there are people who will pose their questions, but before that, I would like to know. So, since you released a book on uh, music, body, and mind, so can you elaborate a little bit in relation to your own presentation? Body, music, and mind.
Actually, that book, it's a collection of different articles I wrote during some 8 or 10 years ago, and I could only publish it now. So it has different articles, and one is about Yeshudas, KJ Yeshudas, the singer, and how it was he was produced to the cultural history, the cultural history of the voice of Yeshudas. That's the one of that. Then another one is it's about KPSC songs. It's a KPSC is a cultural group that was organized by Communist Party. and there are some popular songs that they produced, and I was trying to address the caste issues regarding that, the patronizing concept of KPSC songs and communists. One of the article is about that, and another one is about chenda, an instrument. You can see that in Kerala, certain types of this chenda, it's a percussion instrument that's not allowed in the temple compound. The Hindu temples, they are not allowed to play inside the compound. They are kept outside. So how it happens? It's about the uh, discrimination in the field of chenda. And another one is about the Western music bands in Kerala that try to challenge this classical structure, and uh, it's about that. And another article, it's about the presence of caste in our film music. It's a small article, but I will be trying to develop it later. It's a small article, and it tries to address how this film music, how complex it is, how caste works in film songs. So you can see that always one of the factor I try to explain in that article is in most of the Malayalam songs, you can see that we don't always these folk songs are always outside the narrative. We can see uh, some boatmen singing, or they are not part of the narrative structure. They are outside. So we can see that they are singing when they pass by, or someone singing in the this bar, not bar, the local toddy shop. So we can see some people singing there. So always these folk songs are always out of the narrative structure. Uh, there are certain forms, stereotypic sounds that through which we understand that's folk. So I was trying to explain it in that article on uh, hearing caste. It's Jadi Kelkumbo. It means hearing or listening to caste. Uh, and these were the main issues, and also how body is controlled. Body is controlled in music field. Like when we perform classical music, we have to control our body. We are not allowed to shake our body or dance. But in folk music, the same in Dalit music, we can see that people come to they dance or they sing, so they enjoy and make noise, and they shout, they play instruments. They are not, they don't control their body. So body is also part of the music performance. So these are the main themes I tried to explain in that book, and also in my documentary also I tried to address these questions of the body, how this dominant culture tries to control our body and our voice. So these were the issues I tried to address in both of the works. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really interesting articles that are compiled in terms of book. Hopefully soon it will be translated in English so that many people can read and learn from it. You also made a point that the aesthetic of Dalit music Is it merely a change in costumes or something beyond that?
No, I didn't mean that it's merely about a change in costumes, but it's something that's concerned about the structures also. It's the musical structure. It's we have to do it. The change has to be done within the structures of music, inside the music structure. So, and also the presentation. I was talking about the costumes because uh, it's about the performance. How do we perform? So people want to see us to perform in traditional or folklorist style of dress. So we have to change that. At the same time, we have to change the structures of music and make it more. Uh, we have to explore new dimensions in that, I think.
Okay. So I think we have now in Tamil Nadu we have a casteless collective who have a group which has been experimenting and reorienting the entire Dalit musical aesthetics. So
Yeah.
can you say can you uh, would you like to say something on casteless collective experiment and the way they are trying to develop?
I think it's a very good, uh, it's very productive experiments, I think. And even we have some rappers also from Tamil Nadu, like Arivu, and a lot of people are coming with rap. And the thing is, they are talking about new issues and they are engaging with the present world. It's not just about any nostalgia of the past. They are talking about new issues and they are using it. It's like we are in between the traditional and modern. We are using the traditional type of music and modern music, and new ways are they are trying to create new dimensions. So in Kerala also there are some new experiments like Vedan. Uh, he is a rapper and tries to speak about the present Dalit situation in Kerala. So a lot of new youngsters are coming in the field. They are making new music and new songs that engages with the present condition of the Dalits. So I think these are very productive experiments, I think.
So thank you. So if there are any questions within the Zoom meeting and on Facebook, they can directly ask, message, so that we will continue this discussion. Anybody? Anybody? I think people may ask. So I have, there was also a discussion on a documentary called 18 Feet. Uh, where the identity of the performer and all that. So would you like to share something on that?
Uh, I didn't get an opportunity to watch the movie, that movie, but it's about the Dalit performers in Thrissur district. It's about Karindalakootam, a folk music band, but I haven't seen that documentary. So it's difficult for me to comment on that.
Okay. So I think people can ask questions. Yeah. So now I also read a article written by you where you're also critical about some of the liberal artist musicians stands on classical music and caste question within the classical music and so on. Particularly the Satyas TM Krishnan uh, issues that he was trying to articulate. So would you like to little bit elaborate for the audience?
Okay, sure. I think now caste, people are started talking about caste, and you can see that most of the people, most of the progressive people, they are all anti-caste. So people like to present themselves as anti-caste, and they are not actually. Most of them are not ready to address the key issues regarding caste, but they want to present themselves as progressive and anti-caste and secular. They try to present them like that, but like even TM Krishna, he has now become one of the main people, main spokesman. No, he's trying to talk about anti-caste politics in music. But you can see that why we can there are a lot of Dalits and Bahujan intellectuals, and there are a lot of people who have been criticizing the caste question or caste of music. But why always people like TM Krishna is accepted, but why people don't talk about our criticism? Uh, thing is, it gets more acceptance and audience who listen to that, because they are concerned about a person who has privilege and who is in the center of the uh, this dominant music structure like classical music, how he is ready to sacrifice his caste privilege. So this sacrifice is what people are interested in. Then this it's a liberal thing. No, they are to sacrifice what we have. We have everything, but we are ready to sacrifice it. So this some sort of Gandhian principle. Uh, so it is very it's a populist way of addressing caste. They are not ready to address the key issues. I'll be writing a detailed article on TM Krishna. I have tried to collected a lot of articles and his book also. So I'll be writing a detailed one. Some points I would like to say now. One is that he always talks about the discrimination in the music field, particularly in the uh, classical music field. So he's worried about the why Dalit musicians are not allowed to sing in the main venues of classical music. So he's very generous. He's very kind to the Dalit musician. He's ready to give space for Dalit musicians. But he's not ready to accept the key issue That's actually within the structure of the classical music. It's not simply, it's not a form of discrimination. It's not discrimination, but it's within, it's in the heart of the idea of the classical music. So we have to address that. But sometimes he sings uh, new lyrics. He said that this he tries to avoid the religious text, and he tries to, he says that these religious texts are not actually texts, they are just syllables, they're just words to explain music. It's not, so he's not concerned about the uh, idea or the discourse that these songs uh, bring. So he's mostly concerned about how to make this classical music more liberal, allowing different people to uh, come inside, give them space. It's a liberal idea, but he's not ready to uh, redefine the idea of the classical music. Or uh, so there are a lot of other issues I have with him. So I think I will write a detailed article on that.
Thank you. I think that will be a really, really interesting uh, piece. I think there is also need of that because the so-called mainstream discussion goes by their privileged framework of looking at the issues, thereby the fundamental issues that have been raised by the Dalits, Bojan communities for longer time become invisible. So it has been will be projected as if they are the beginners of raising these questions. So, and what you said, the sacrifice that they are willing is something become more important than the issues that we are raising. I think that's a really, really important conversation. I think there is a need, and so far I have seen only you have been consistently developing that approach compared to the many, because this is the field which largely some of the Dalits are not seriously engaged in terms of its consistency and uh, but in terms of institutions, their engagement with this Dalit music is would you like to share any some comments and observation how institutions also play a role?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Uh, there are two types of institutions. We have some music institutions like state-owned music colleges, and but they are actually, they are not music colleges. They are Carnatic music colleges in Kerala. Uh, so music, the capital, when we write with the capital letter, it becomes just classical music. So it's not mentioned in most of these music colleges. It's not, actually it has to be classical music college of Trivandrum, or classical music college of, or Carnatic music college of uh, Tripurithara, but it's written just music. So music means classical music. It's a trend, and these we have a certain history of these music colleges. These music colleges developed as part of certain classical music discourses, like uh, there was Madras Music Academy in Madras, and this the discourses that developed by these uh, Madras Music Academy and the Neo Brahmin movements concerned with music, and it was because of these inspirations that these music colleges in Kerala were established, and it has a history of this this Brahminic music tradition and developments. So still now, I have been a student of Trivandrum Music College, and I have experienced this caste. It's not just discrimination, but in the very structure, I have seen that there's caste in the educational system, the textbook, and the how these teachers treat us. So we can see that there's caste in all of that, in the structure, very structure of the music college and the uh, curriculum. So these are music colleges which tries to develop uh, classical and Carnatic music, and they they actually they make certain discourses regarding folk music and film music. These are always considered as low music to this classical music. So these institutions are also in very much part of this discourse which I was talking about. Now, it, 1 month ago, there was a controversy regarding uh, uh, this Kalamandalam. No, RLV Ramakrishnan. RLV, that's a music college in Ernakulam. So RLV Ramakrishnan is the brother of Kalabhavan Mani, the film actor who died a few years ago. And RLV Ramakrishnan is a Dalit performer. Is a Mohiniyattam performer. That's a dance form. Mohiniyattam is a dance form, and is a performer of Mohiniyattam. And he was not allowed to perform in an online program that was organized by uh, Kerala Sangeeta Nadaga Academy. So it was because of his caste identity that he was not allowed to perform Mohiniyattam. So these institutions are uh, these art institutions and these uh, music colleges all are really they are all they have a caste history, I think, and structurally they are casteist.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Malesh, having a so Malesh, Kadpu Malesh, would you like to ask a question? Malesh, please unmute yourself. Malesh. So anybody? So he's not able to unmute. Okay. So do you think what are the aspects that one can Dalits can learn from the black musical world?
Uh, we, when we look at this African or black music or Afro-American music, they have most of them have developed certain new genres, like Afro Americans. They developed jazz music and rock and roll, and later now we have rap music and hip hop. Most of these music forms have their roots in black music and black history. So, but they have not tried to stay in a separate, in a peculiar, just one, in any traditional form. They have developed new forms and experimented with new sounds and new forms of music. And we can see that most of the people from the different world have uh, tried to get inspired by this black music, and also in a rap also we have a lot of people from Afro-American origins. They have tried to talk about the issues of the blacks and black politics. Uh, like we have Afro-American singer like Kafela Kuti, and then rappers like Tupac. A lot of people, they are part of the industry and they have a lot of followers, and they are they are dominated the music scene. So we have to try to do uh, that sort of a large scale production, or we have to. It's not like always speaking from the margins or making certain marginal attempts. We have to experiment with uh, the possibilities we have and enter the mainstream, and we have to develop a lot of new sounds and new music. And I think this is what we get. We have to learn from this black music and black musicians.
Okay. Yeah. So anybody? So if there are no questions, so we can conclude. But before that, I would like to ask Ajith Kumar ji, so would you like to share anything that as a some sort of final message before I conclude?
I think I have said most of the thing I wish to say. If there was any questions, I could have elaborated, but now I think I said most of the thing I was thinking about.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. But it will be, I would say that your book will, if it is translated in English, that will be really helpful to the larger audience across India, because most of the Dalit performance, music instruments are 99, majorly they are studied under folkloristic approach.
yeah,
You rightly pointed out.
yeah,
But people like you, your writings really help us to see from different vantage point, different perspective. I think this is very important. This perspective is very important, because as long as they are, these performance and music traditions are studied in folkloristic, it is very difficult to imagine a through alternative perspective. And now there is a new generation of performers from Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, from different states began to experiment both in terms of content using modern instruments and reorienting the Dalit music aesthetics. So in a way, there is a new phase of Dalit music tradition, which creating a new hope for the new generation of performers, and hopefully many more advanced initiations will take place. But however, the serious research and knowledge production of the on Dalit music is yet to take place. I think scholars from the Dalit community, Bahujan communities, have a responsibility to seriously engage and produce a critical discourse to challenge the dominant institutionalized discourses that are circulated and recirculated within the institutions and among the civil society groups. With this note, the aim of this lecture series is to engage with this kind of discussions. So in coming days, we will also have a lectures both from the North India, South India, and other parts of the states. So with this, on behalf of Satya Shodhak, I really thankful to the Ajith Kumar is for his valuable presentation and for your sharing his ideas, observation, which are I feel personally is very important for new generation of scholars and artists and musicians. So with this, I thank everyone who participated in Zoom meeting as well as whoever watching on Facebook. So we are recording this presentation. We have recorded, and those who have missed, they can visit Satya Shodhak page with Ambedkar profile picture. They can watch it again, and later we will upload in YouTube for larger audience. They can also visit YouTube channel, Satya Shodhak YouTube channel, so that they can watch it. Thank you very much. Thank you.